It's Thursday, so welcome everybody to Glad You Asked. We're so glad you're here. We're excited. Tiffany, thank you for being here. And we have, okay, y'all, I'm excited. I'm excited because we have the TL on the call. I'm excited, excited. All right. Tiffany, you know you're it. You keep me on track. You keep this call on track. So I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us what we are talking about today.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Glad You Asked. It's good to see all of you here. Today, we have several really great topics for you. We're excited. We know that there's going to be some good conversation behind a few of these, especially. But before we do, we always have a few announcements. So a couple of announcements for you. The first one is we are going to talk about briefly the Hillsborough recent focus and activities. In case you hadn't seen it yet, make sure you know that we are now having team meetings in Hillsborough every other Tuesday. So the Tuesdays that are not in Burlington, we are going to be in Hillsborough. So you are welcome, everyone, to come over here and join us for those Hillsborough team meetings as well. Woo woo! Something exciting, lots of good things happening. Yay! Yay. So if you haven't been to the two meetings that we've had here already, make sure you plug in. Really great information, opportunity to be heard, have your ideas sounded, and some changes are happening. So we're really excited over here. Yay. Thank you, Andy Lee. Thank you. I was trying to see if we have anybody else in our leadership team. Teresa, of course you.
Yeah.
So really excited about the things that are happening. So make sure you plug in.
Tiffany, if I can just put it like a pin in it right there really quick. Since you brought up Hillsborough, didn't know if the team leader, Dr. Lee, has anything to add about that happenings in Hillsborough that you care to share or discuss, talk about?
Yeah, not real necessity, but the reason for it is what we knew that there used to be something bigger there that was no longer there. And I knew there was, when I was looking at agent lists and productivity, I'm like, there is a lot of profitability in our whole big 285 person market center coming out of little old Hillsborough. And we're spending, I don't know of anybody, when I took over, I don't know of anybody spending time there, outside of Teresa being there once a week, and obviously Tiffany's there. And so in leadership, what I said is, let's schedule a lunch down there to where everybody is, we all go, and let's do open Q&A, and let's see what they want. Let's see what they want to do. Let's fire this thing back up, and let's get them fired up about Hillsborough and Mebane again. So that was the purpose behind it. And we made a couple impulsive decisions during a meeting, and Tiffany held my feet to the fire and was like, you're going to do all this stuff that you said, or they're going to kill you. And I said, all right, let's do it. So we scheduled a team meeting on the opposite Tuesdays, because a lot of those people in Hillsborough, it's not that long of a of a commute from Hillsborough to Burlington, let's call it 20 minutes. However, that was my stupid assumption, because a lot of those people are working on the east side of Hillsborough into the Chapel Hill and the Durhams and the Rileys, when in actuality, it's 45 minutes to an hour for them to commute up to a meeting. So it made sense for us. Let's provide something for them and let's see how it goes. So here we are, and everybody's excited about it.
Yes, we are. So thank you. All right. Now we have, as usual, we've got a couple of policies and procedures that we are going to review. We always try to do at least 2 or 3 every meeting. So we've got 3 that we're going to cover today. And then after we do that policy and procedure review, we have some interesting topics. One of them is, why is it important to use your professional services disclosure form? We're going to talk about that. That is a CY, everybody's A, okay? And so we're going to talk about what it is, why, And what happens if you fail to have that document in your transaction and something comes up later? So we're going to talk in detail about that and maybe get some feedback if you all have any questions about it, why to use it, how to use it. And then the other one is we are going to talk about if you happen to have perhaps separating or divorcing clients, how to handle selling a property when you've got parties that are in disagreement and they're trying to rope you in and make you pick a side and those types of things. And what happens if you don't handle that properly? We have some agents that have had something to come back after the fact, complaints or possible duress claims and things like that. So we need to talk about how to handle that kind of a scenario. Okay, so we've got some really good topics. So let's start with the policy and procedure review. Today we are going to review number 3, 4, and 18. And Teresa, you can feel free to jump in and discuss once we get to these policies. Can everyone, oh, wait a minute here. Okay, there we go. Can everyone see the policies and procedures screen? Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can
Not
see.
yet, it's coming.
Okay.
Now we can. Yep.
You can. All right, great. All right, so we're going to do 3, 4, and 18. And since we are here on 18, let's just do that one first. All right, so the first one is the E&O policy. So we have had several E&O claims that we have had to submit here just over the past month. There's been quite a few, and there have been a lot of questions that come up about the E&O policy. So we wanted to take a little time to review the current policy with you and then speak about what our E&O rep has recently shared with Teresa, and also how to go about that process if you run into a situation where you're impacted or affected by E&O. Okay, so we're going to first start with the policy. It's policy number 18 on your screen here. The agent will receive E&O insurance as a part of their monthly fees with KW Central. If any official complaint comes from the commission, or if an agent is being threatened by a client, an attorney, another firm, or if the agent is aware of a problem that could become a potential issue, the head broker Vic must be notified immediately in order to make sure that the insurance company is aware of all potential claims. Okay, now that was a lot. So what we're saying here, you guys, is that if there is a complaint from the commission, we automatically have to submit that to E&O. So that's first and foremost. If you receive a threat, maybe from an agent, maybe from an attorney, if there's even a hint or a threat of some sort of a claim or lawsuit, we have to be notified immediately. If you fail to notify us and E&O does not get a immediate notification, they may deny the claim later. All right, and so that's where the rest of the policy goes here. If the agent fails to notify the head Vic immediately, the insurance company can decide to deny a future claim. The agent is responsible for the deductible for all the claims. If your complaint or lawsuit is not accepted as a claim by the Market Center's E&O insurance coverage, it will be at the discretion of the Market Center whether to assist the agent financially or otherwise. And then if the Market Center chooses to assist the agent financially with complaints or lawsuits that are not accepted as a claim, the agent is still responsible for all costs up to the current year's deductible amount. All right, so it's really important for you to understand that the agent is responsible for their deductible. And then if E&O will not take your claim, then you may be responsible for the entire cost of a claim that comes against you. But the Market Center does have the discretion to assist or not. Any questions about that before Teresa jumps in and shares a little bit of information we learned from Paul Bundy? Any questions? I'm trying to flip my screen to see
Teresa?
Okay.
Teresa, can you hear
Yes.
me?
I can.
Oh, okay. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Teresa. It's Natalie Marone. I'm just wondering exactly how much that deductible is.
That deductible, good question, Natalie. I believe that it is, and forgive me, I should have brought up the policy. I want to say it's like 2,500 or 5,000. I think it's 5,000 initially, and if we do everything we're supposed to do, it's like cut in half.
It's
So
cut in half.
2,500, yeah, it's $2,500. So that's the deductible amount that is
Okay.
According to the policy.
Okay. Is there any way to get additional liability insurance through the firm or the NAR that you guys know of, or do we have to get that individually?
So the policy that we have covers the entire market center as well as the agents. So it covers staff, it covers all agents. I'm pretty sure an individual could get additional coverage if they so choose to do so. I know NAR partners with Pearl Insurance, I believe it is, specifically where they allow or have discounts for realtors. So I believe Pearl is one of the ones NAR partners with.
Hey, this is Carl. So a couple things. One, where can we get a copy of all your policy procedures? I'm sure you guys already told us this before, but I don't know if you can email them out. Okay. And two, as far as getting additional policies and stuff, I mean, I don't know much about it, but sometimes you might be wasting your money if you get double coverage because they both won't pay the claim. One would pay the, so it may not be worth getting the extra coverage. So it's just something to check into.
Very true. Thank you for that, Carl. That is very true. One can choose not to. I know ours through Arch Insurance. If the agent uses their own attorney or uses their own insurance, then that automatically waives the right to use Arch Insurance in the future for that same claim. So you're absolutely right. Don't know if there are any out there that are different than that, but certainly ours is through Arch Insurance.
All right. And then Carl, to answer your first question, the PMP are out on our intranet on the white pages. And, we have sent out links and all kinds of things, but it is available anytime on our KW 832 intranet white pages, the policies and procedures. Teresa, we can revisit if we want to maybe see if Daniel could potentially just email those out to everybody again or something like that. So we'll talk about because we don't want to inundate agents and send out this 40-page document, multiple times. So, but Carl, offline, if you need me to show you how to get to it in the white pages, I'd be happy to do that for you. All
because
right.
we automatically update twice a year. So you're going to get it twice a year anyway. We update that December, January timeframe when the commission changes their rules, if they so decide, as well as July when the NC Realtors updates their form. So we automatically review it and update twice a year anyway. Yep.
All right.
If we're good, can I talk a little bit about Paul Bondi, my discussion with him?
Mhm.
So as an FYI to all of you agents, I spoke with Paul Bondi earlier this week regarding a couple of things, and here is what he shared with me. Now, Paul Bondi, he is our PBI insurance rep. That's who we go through. He's like our insurance agent, our E&O insurance agent. Spoke with him earlier this week, and here's what he shared with me. He has seen an uptick in E&O claims in South Carolina and North Carolina, lawsuits and commission complaints alike. So, I asked him, why do you think that is? Why are we seeing an uptick? Because I'll be honest with you all, last year, these numbers are astounding. Last year, that's 2021, Tiffany, we only had what, 3 complaints?
3
complaints the entire year. This year, I received 3 in 1 week. So the numbers we've seen as a market center an uptick in E&O complaints, an uptick in threats
Commission
and
complaints, too.
lawsuits and all of that. So I don't know where we are now, even going into this third quarter, we may be around somewhere between 7 to 10, or maybe more than that. Excuse me. So when I asked him why, he says he believes that it's due to emotionalism of clients because of the possible threatening shift in the market. He's saying these clients are getting antsy because it's in the news, they're hearing it in reports, the market's changing, the market's shifting, the market's doing this, and they're really becoming emotional, making emotional decisions. And so he believes that's why we're seeing this uptick, excuse me, in South Carolina and North Carolina alike. So I want to tell you all, let's be on the proactive. Let's be, what is it? Defensive driving? Is that what we're saying? We're looking out for the other one. Maybe that's it. Something to that effect. Let's be proactive in our business dealings and working with clients, kind of, looking at flags, catching flags, because a lot of times clients will throw those red flags. Sometimes we ignore them, what have you, but let's just be on the lookout for potentials and do everything we can to CYA, which we will talk about when we talk about that professional services disclosure, but making sure we're getting everything documented in writing, send an email, send a text, follow up all of your phone calls with these things so we can have a good record of what we've said and shared with our clients. So that's the latest and greatest from our E&O insurance rep. And I saw Judy, you came off of mute.
Yeah, so if I heard you correctly, I heard you say at the discretion of the market center or whatever, there could be, contribution from the market center, because obviously the market center chooses the policy which dictates the deductible, not us, right? And until you need it, you're told, well, don't worry about it. You got E&O, you got E&O. And then all of a sudden you realize E&O does not cover everything. So tell me what that discretion translates to.
Good question, Judy. It's really on a case-by-case basis. We look at, or the market center looks at each individual case or complaint or claim and look at it individually because they are so unique. Each transaction is unique. So there are various things that the market center and leadership takes a look at when making those decisions. So it's just really a case-by-case basis. It really is.
I mean, can you give me an example what that means? Like
So I can give you an actual example of there was a case where when I first came on as Big here in 2020, there was something already in progress. There was a threat of a lawsuit from a client of an agent. And I can't remember exactly what the issue was. Something had to do with the repair or roof. I can't remember exactly what it was. However, that client was demanding a payment. And after review and discussion, again, I came in during this and had to take it over. So what ended up happening was the agent, the market center leadership got together and discussed the claim, or potential claim, discuss what was going on, what the agent did or provided, looking at reviewing all of the records, was everything in place, was everything done in a compliant manner. And what ended up happening was the agent and the market center shared in it. And that, again, was the decision of the leadership at that time. So it really is a case by case. We just review all of the documentation and all of that. So that's really what ended up happening. They shared in the cost.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we've got 2 more policies and procedures before we jump into today's topics. And so I am sharing my screen again. These next 2 are really pretty short, quick ones, mostly all of these are reminders. You should be somewhat familiar with these by now. Number 3, agent on duty. So you've probably seen the emails going out. We've been asking for agents to sign up for AOD duty in both Hillsborough and in Burlington. And so remember, any agent can schedule to be agent on duty at either location. There are calendars that you can go and pick the actual days and times that you want to be. And we want to encourage you, especially now with this new focus on Hillsborough, to consider putting your hat in there for some duty here in the Hillsborough area, because we are up and cracking and popping, whatever you want to call it. But we are going to keep this momentum, and we want to encourage you to consider some AOD hours here in Hillsborough as well as in Burlington. But remember, the hours are 9 to 1, and then 1 to 5, Monday through Friday, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 9 to 5. And then Hillsborough, currently those hours are 1 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then
Can I
that's
say
Friday.
something real quick on Hillsborough AOD?
Sure.
Something to think about. This isn't a sales pitch. This is facts. As the culture changes in Hillsborough, the butts and the seats are going to change in Hillsborough. So now we're not just going to have my friend Judy. We're going to have Judy plus 17 other people. As the butts and those seats change, what's coming in the door and coming in the phones is going to change. So as Hillsborough goes from 10 to 37, that phone's going to start ringing. So it might be smart in a preemptive strike to get on these calendars for Hillsborough, like make friends before you need them kind of thing. I'd probably be getting myself on that list if you have openings in your calendar before you realize, crap, I should have listened to Andy on that conference call and got on the calendar. So this is me telling you what's coming.
All right, so you've heard it from Andy himself. We have some really great things happening coming. Get in there, get ahead of it, and get on that calendar. All right. And then Tammy, I see your hand. You have a question?
That's okay. So I just wanted to make sure I understood it correctly. So even if you hang your license in Burlington, you could still do agent on duty in Hillsborough. So
That is correct. We're all one market center. Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for asking, Tammy.
Matter of fact, Tammy, I want you to go do it.
I want to. I'm going to. After my vacation, I'm going to.
I love you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. And I hope that more people will join Tammy and get on that calendar. And then number 4, this is the final policy procedure review for today, is agent support. Just a reminder for you all, you already have this information. If you have a non-transaction specific question, you can call the big hotline. That number is 336-864-5991 for answers. Remember, non-transaction specific type of questions. If you have transactional questions, we ask that you email brokerincharge832@gmail.com so that we can answer questions specific to your transaction, your transactional issue. And also any signatures that are needed need to be sent to brokerincharge832@gmail.com. Make sure that those documents are sent with all other signatures already in place and ready to be signed. So that's just really a refresher and a review when it comes to that agent support from the compliance side. All right. All right. And so that is it for policy and procedure review. And now we are going to segue into our topics for the day. Teresa, why do our agents need to use the professional services disclosure form? Please tell us why. Please tell us.
It is so important as a CYA. That professional services disclosure helps us as agents, especially when we are suggesting or referring any type of vendor to them. Even if we're not referring anyone, they chose their own lender, fine. I want to put it in writing. I need to document that they found their own lender, who it was. That is so important, because when clients come back later and say, oh, well, you didn't do this for me, or you didn't get this inspection, or you didn't do this, we can whip out that PSD and say, but you waived it based on this professional services disclosure and your signature. So it really is a CYA. And here's another thing. When it comes to E&O, they will ask, when I am submitting that claim online and filling out all of the documentation, they are asking these questions. Do they have the professional services disclosure? Where is the working with real estate agents? Is it standard forms? Were the standard forms used? So E&O, they're asking these questions because it matters if there ever is a claim. So please, please, please make sure we are using the PSD, especially for buyers. Especially for buyers. However, there are times when we recommend a staging company or an inspector for a pre-list inspection. I'm getting a PSD for that too, even on the list side. So, and even if that seller orders something themselves, it's good to put it on the PSD in that other section down at the bottom where you can write it in if it's not already pre-listed. Put it on that PSD, get them to sign it. You sign it, they initial what they've done. It's a very good CYA for us. So make sure it's important. I tell you, it's important.
And in case you're wondering, CYA means cover your amnesia, because that's what your clients have when they forget that you recommended for them to have these services done. And so to make sure that the amnesia part is covered, you want to have it in writing that you did have this discussion, that you did give them the option and they opted yes or no. Okay. In addition, we also want to say to make sure that you have all of your conversations, oral conversations, follow them up in an email, in writing in some fashion or sense, to make sure that there's not a miscommunication or a misunderstanding. And also to have a paper trail, because when these things come back a year or two later and we're trying to go back through and figure out and piece together what happened, if you can't provide any kind of email trail, any kind of text communication, then it's very difficult to figure out who is telling the truth in their claims. Is it the client? Is it the agent? It's a he said, she said, and that looks very bad. As the professional, you are expected to have documentation. You're expected to have some kind of proof of what has happened in the transaction that you could provide if called upon. All right. So just that reminder and that refresher, especially for the PSD.
Hey,
Okay.
Tiffany,
Yes.
this is Carl, coming from someone that deals with sometimes disgruntled owners and tenants.
Yes.
It goes a long way if somebody starts if they start, word I'm looking for to sound nice, they start threatening you about stuff. And then when you start sending them the documentation to show them that you have done your job and that they are incorrect, it tends to quiet them down to where it doesn't even get to the E&O part.
Good point. That's great, Carl. Thank you for sharing that. So if they're making a claim and you literally have proof that they told you otherwise in their own email writing to you, that does tend to help settle things before they escalate.
Yeah, and thank you, Carl, for saying that. And Tiffany, I also like to just tack on to that. It really helps me as well. It helps us in the big department, because when we get calls from clients, complaining or telling us their side of what has happened. And then when I go to the agent or go to command to look at their files, if it's there, guess what? I can just, bam, there it is. What Carl just said, have proof here that the agent did their fiduciary or provided their fiduciary. However, if it's not there, and I go to the agent and ask for this documentation, and they can't provide proof of the conversation via text or email, that makes it harder to rebut anything that the client is saying. So it really helps in the long run. So follow it up with email, put it in writing, in a text, something that we can have a paper trail of.
All right. And again, it's for the protection of all. So not just for you, but also for that client with the amnesia. All right. So there are a couple of questions or comments in the chat that I wanted to segue to here just for a second before we go to our next topic. Mike McCann said he's curious if the complaints are happening more regarding listing or buyer agents. And that is a good question, Mike. Teresa, just off the top of your head, when we're thinking about just the ones that we have seen this uptick here, do they seem to be more one or the other?
I'll be honest, it's actually been almost equal, I would say. I don't see, and I'm just thinking back, let me think back. And I probably need to pull up the file, Tiffany, in our drive. I believe it's kind of, I'm going to say off the top of my head right now, it appears to be somewhat equal, especially if I look at everything, not just complaints, but threats as well. It's been pretty equal, buyers and listings. So I think it's just like Paul Bondi, our rep, said, it's an emotional time. Buyers are feeling the urgency of the market shifting, the market's changing, let me get in while I still can. Interest rates are going up. Then it's sellers' frustration that their home did not sell in 1 hour as opposed to 7 days, which is still very, very quick. That's still a quick sale. It didn't sell in 2 hours. It sold in 2 weeks. That's still quick. So I just think it's just emotions. But Mike, great question. And while Tiffany goes on to the next topic, I'm going to pull up my drive.
Okay, and check the numbers. I think it is about 50-50. Just off the top of my head, the ones that I remember are either material facts, which we have talked about so many times, you guys. You still have to do your due diligence and you have to disclose. But on the buyer side, we've got clients complaining that they weren't advised or told to have something inspected. We have a couple of advertising complaints. So there are some on both sides. It's not really trending specifically strongly to one or the other. And it does, as the rest of Mike's statement here, he says, I feel that there are agents not doing their full fiduciary responsibility with regards to listings, like not providing square feet, school info, buyers to verify information, providing well and septic reports. They're indicating that the buyers are to verify all of their information. And these types of remarks are not taking the responsibility away from the listing agent, correct? And so, Mike, to answer that second question, you are correct. You can't take away your responsibility or liability by saying buyer agent verify. You're still responsible for what you disclose or fail to disclose. And we've talked about that constantly with material facts and disclosure. So keep that in mind. You have that duty of discover and disclose, and you do have a fiduciary duty to do more than write a disclaimer in the listing. If there is a material fact as the listing agent, you must disclose it. From the buyer side, if there is a red flag, you must say to that buyer, you should look into this further. If you purchase the home, this now becomes your problem. And so just making sure that you're doing your part when it comes to due diligence. All right. Andy Lee has said, Gary says in Shift, the most humbling lesson of a shift is this: we succeed in good times, not only because of what we do right, but in spite of what we do wrong. In other words, this shift is starting to bring to light agent laziness, flaws, processes and procedures, and hence the uptick in complaints. And we're seeing that right now. And so thank you, Andy, for sharing that with us. Carl asked, what is the statute of limitations for real estate complaints? 2 years. Carl, there's really not a statute of limitations. It could happen 10 years from now. There's no limit to at what point it's too late for someone to file a complaint. Now, the commission only requires you to keep your records and documentation for how long? Who knows the answer to that? Very good, Sarah. Good. 3 years. Good. So the commission only requires the documentation to be retained for 3 years, but there's no statute of limitations on complaint. And when it comes to fraud, if there's something that you have done intentionally incorrect, you don't have any statute of limitation protection against that either. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Thanks for verifying. Real estate is for life. Okay. All right. So good comments here. Thank you, guys. So if there are no other questions about the professional services disclosure, let's move forward to our next topic. Tammy, your hand is up. Is that new or is that old?
Yes. So I just have one other question. So if someone made a complaint or someone actually called you guys and complained on anything, do you automatically reach right out to us?
Yes.
You would.
Teresa has a lovely detailed sheet explaining who called, why they called, what her conversation with them entailed to provide to the agent that there's a complaint against, and then begin the process of getting your side of the story. And of course, documentation, which we need you to have. Document everything, you guys. Yeah. Thanks for asking, Tammy.
Thank you for answering.
Sure. All right. So our next topic, if there's nothing else about PSD, how many of you all have had a transaction where perhaps the husband and wife are separating, or they are divorcing, or even a court order? I'm starting to see some hands go up here. Court order or some other contentious relationship between the owners. Okay, so it doesn't always have to be husband and wife, but we're seeing that happen a lot here lately, where you're sort of being pressured into either partnering one side or the other, or you don't know how to maintain professionalism or keep in communication because they won't communicate with each other. How many of you all either have or have recently gone through a transaction like that? Okay, I see a few hands here. All right, will anyone share with us if Natalie, you got on just to wave yours for that. I've heard about yours, I know. So can anyone share with me, out of those who raised your hands, how many of you all did take on those clients or decided to work with them versus maybe how many, or put it this way, how many of you all decided not to take it on? Let's raise that hand first. Did anyone decide not to? Okay, I thought I'd ask that one first because I want you to remember, I want you to remember that that is an option, you guys. Every potential client that comes your way is not someone that you have to and absolutely must take on. And especially if you know that you're a pretty emotional person, you have to keep that in mind, that you can say no, that there are other opportunities that might better suit you and your style of service. Okay, so just wanted to remind you of that first and foremost. Now, if you did take it on, did you have any trouble in your transaction?
So I have one currently going on.
Okay.
And the husband and there's a restraining order. So they're not allowed to talk to each other. So the husband did give me permission to get the majority of my questions answered by the wife, because she's the one who really knows about the house and, can answer my questions. However, they have asked me to not put them in the same emails or text or anything such as that nature. But it's worked out pretty good. I haven't had an issue with it. It's added a little extra work to me because I have to copy and paste from one email to the other or text or whatever. But other than that, it's been okay. It was a little scary in the beginning because some of the questions that the husband did have to answer slowed us down from moving forward with trying to get the agreement going and all that good stuff.
All right. Thank you, Tammy, for sharing that. And, you know, what you just mentioned there, that having to do a little bit of double work, if like in the scenarios where they can't be on the same email thread, making sure that you take those extra steps to take everything you've communicated to one and communicate it to the other is vital in scenarios and situations like this. Okay. So that it doesn't appear that you are being unprofessional or picking a side or any such thing that could come back and haunt you later. Okay. So thank you, Tammy, for sharing that. And also just a little hope that it doesn't always turn into a dramatic, you know, transaction, but that it still could run pretty smoothly once you establish and you have very professional communication standards in that scenario. So thank you for sharing that. I thought I saw another hand. Judy, did you have your hand raised? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I'm in the middle of one right now, and so I found myself sitting in the middle of the two who were barely speaking to one another, and I just came out. I mean, there was so much tension in the air that I just found myself saying, "Listen, I'm sorry for what you two are going through. For me, this is a business transaction. I'm not going to have any side conversations with one over the other, and I'll be sure to copy you both on the emails that go out, so everybody's in the same loop." And I felt like, you know, I've always done that, but it was the first time I actually sat there and said that to them, because I felt like it needed to be said. And I felt like that went a long way, just in getting the trust of the one who was less trusting in the room. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And what a great example of how to just really address the elephant in the room up front, because clearly it's a difficult transaction. There are people with emotions involved. And that reminder that you are a business person, that you cannot get involved in any of the personal emotional, but that you can do your very best. You can do your part to get the objective completed, which is the sale of the property. So thank you for sharing how you have talked about it and addressed it up front. You know, instead of trying to ignore tension or trying to hope that it goes away, we address the difficulty that we are all facing here and how we can work beyond that to get the transaction completed. So that's a great move there, Judy. Sarah, did you raise your hand? Did I see you raising your hand? No. Okay. So for the one, Natalie, do you mind sharing why you chose not to take on that transaction?
Well, it was a combination of things, but in my scenario, it was clear that there was a lot of repairs. HVAC needed replaced. There was just a lot that had been neglected for a very long time. And the two of them weren't even talking. And so as I explained to both of them that I would have certain expectations about communication via email so that we can proceed forward. I also kind of explained that they were going to have to, you know, work with the vendors, that I would be happy to connect them with people, but that one of them or both of them were going to have to share in the responsibility of somehow getting the house ready, because they didn't want to go on the market as is. They wanted to make the most amount of money. And in those situations, it does require work and coordination. And they just could not come into an agreement. And I said, well, I'd love to help you guys, but you need to call me when you have more, I don't know, collaboration or some kind of agreement about how to proceed. I wound up sending them an email about various ways they could proceed. But of course, they wanted the one that was going to be the most challenging because it yielded the best results for them financially. So that's kind of where that left off. And who knows, they may circle back. But for now, I just basically said, I don't think that, I just felt like they needed to be more realistic about the condition the house was in and the situation. about their communication, and one or two, if both of those had to change, then, to call me back.
Okay. And thank you for sharing that, Natalie, because again, I can't stress enough that you do not have to take on everything that comes your way. It's up to you to decide if you're going to be able to work with the people that you're being presented with and how they approach you. And again, if people are emotional and if they're not responsive from the very beginning, it's likely going to escalate once you get the pressure of service providers or perhaps offers that they have to now come to some sort of agreement. So really pay attention to those red flags ahead of time, and be prepared for if you think that you're going to be able to manage this transaction without pulling out all of your own hair in trying to help others. So remember that adage that you can't help people who aren't willing to help themselves. Okay, so just be practical and really analyze the situation that you're being faced with, and if it's going to be something that will work out in the end, or something that's going to overly stress yourself, because these are stressful times. When shifts are happening, it's something to consider of what is good for you as well in these business transactions. Okay, certainly you have to keep your clients and their needs first, but don't throw yourself out with the baby with the bathwater thing. So keep that in mind. And again, with that, I want to just mention that we have a few guest speakers that will be coming up here soon that we're working on. We're going to have an appraiser come and join us here in the next month or two. We're going to have someone from the Orange County Permit Department. We had Alamance. If you haven't seen that yet, you guys, make sure you listen to that video, because there were a lot of things that we did not know about the permitting process in Alamance County. And it's different than our permits and process in Orange County. And so we're going to have someone else come and speak about the Orange County permitting process. And then we do have, we're working on getting someone to come in and speak about mental health. This is something that, again, we're having more and more emotional transactions, more and more complaints that are happening. And so we're going to have someone that's going to come in and talk to us about mental health for you all as real estate agents, and mental health of your clients, the people that you're working with, red flags, things to look for, and how to navigate through emotional times and stressful times. And so we have all of these things in the works. And of course, when the time comes, we'll announce who's coming and when. And so make sure you're all on the lookout for all these good things that we have in store. So any questions you guys about what should you do if you have that emotional or contentious seller situation happening?
Tiffany, one thing I want to add,
sure,
or if someone has an answer or wants to answer, they can do that. But one thing I do want to say, when talking about these distressed clients who are going through their own personal issues and having to sell or sell their property in such a emotional time, don't forget to get the permission. I heard Tammy mention that the husband gave her permission to do something, whatever that was. Make sure you get that in writing, send an email, ask them to follow it up. Or if they don't do that, send them an email to say, per our conversation, I want to make sure I'm clear. You're giving me permission to do da 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 da. Because like Tiffany mentioned, they get amnesia sometimes and may not remember. Maybe they truly didn't remember they made a statement, because it is such an emotional time for them. So just following things up or getting that permission in writing. Have them shoot you a quick text or an email giving their permission or stating whatever that permission is that they're giving. So back to Tiffany's question.
Yeah, any other questions or comments on that particular topic?
I'll piggyback on that a little bit. So I think a lot of this comes down to expectations with your client on meeting number one. when you first sit down and they're hiring you to represent them, whether it's buying or listing, it's giving them that full expectation of this is how our process should go. This is how I'm expecting our process should go. Also, on top of the expectation, it's all of the paperwork, because we're going to go, and that's beating a dead horse at this point. But when we are going to have you in the forefront of our mind, and we're going to go to war for you as a leadership team at all costs. You matter. You are our priority over anything else when something like that comes up. On the flip side, you've got to make sure we have ammo when we need it, because that's all the documentation is. It's allowing you to keep working, us to get it from you, go to war, put the fire out, and then we all continue about our lives. And people don't get 99.9% of the time, the only time somebody gets nervous about a complaint or a letter written to NC Rec is when they can't think back and clearly remember that they executed their procedures and all the documentation to the fullest. That's when people get nervous. But if you never have to worry about a complaint and you never have to worry about a letter to NC Rec, if you have done your due diligence, you have laid your expectations, and you have done all the legal documentation, there is nothing for you to worry about.
That's it. That's it. Love it.
All right, Tammy, I still see your hand up. Do you have another question, or is that this? Okay. All right. Well, at this point, we have about 8 more minutes. You know, we always like to open up the floor for just what's happening in your transactions. Do you have any questions, you know, in general about what's going on or about the market? So opening the floor to you all, ask us some questions so we can be glad you asked. Anything, any questions?
I have
Any
one more
chat?
question.
Okay, Natalie.
So I got the info, it seems, about the, I'm sorry, the E&O, about the, what's it called? Oh my God, hello. About the deductible. But what is the maximum coverage in a situation like that we have? Like what if something, yeah, like what if something goes to, you know, I don't know, great lengths? I don't know why that would happen, but what if it did?
Actually, Natalie, that's a fair question. There is something going to great lengths right now, as far as like suits or claims or things like that. So Teresa, did you ever pull that policy up, or yeah? Okay. Because there is a max.
There is a max that we have. I didn't pull the policy up. What I pulled up was how many claims we've had. And when I looked at it, we are about equal. I just wanted to bring that up with buyers, sellers, or listings. We have 5 right now. Buyer side and plus advertising is 4. So it's about the same. Wanted to go back and answer Mike McCann's question. We do have a max, and I guess I'll pull that up. Give me 1 second to do so. Just give me a minute.
Can you tell us what the complaints are for?
I tend to like to keep agents' information private because I respect our agents' privacy. However, yeah, where we get a lot of our topics from. We get a lot of our topics from complaints, threats, lawsuits, and just agent challenges within this industry. This is where we get this from. So a lot of what we're hearing and what we're discussing and what you're hearing is coming from complaints. Yep, current complaints, current threats, current suits. So this is where we get it from. So just know, I'm glad you asked. It has happened somewhere.
Recently. Or it is happening, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did want to say, I had something else to say, but never mind. I'm going to pull up the policy.
Okay. Yeah, because there are some details about the E&O. And remember, we had Paul Bondi to come, and was it Paul that came to talk to us? So we have that. Glad you asked. It's out there on our YouTube channel. That was a really informative session with Paul Bundy about E&O insurance. So I want to let you guys know that we have all these resources. They're out there. So make sure if you have a question or want to refresh yourself about E&O, make sure you go back and listen to that Glad You Asked, where we had him visiting us and talking specifically about it from the E&O perspective. Okay. So, because there's really great information there.
The one thing I will say while I'm pulling the policy up is that going back to Natalie's question, it's more or less how much it costs us in premium as a market center. Also depends on how much coverage we can afford to get. I will tell you this, when I first got here, we were in the higher tens of thousands in premiums that we have to pay as a market center every year. As a premium, that's our premium. That's what we have to pay to get this E&O insurance. And like I said, it wasn't in the hundreds thousands, but it wasn't, a little bit more, few 10,000s more. It was close. So we pay a lot. Plus we have to have cyber, a cyber policy as well. So we have to pay a premium for cyber policy because everything we do is cloud-based. So it really depends on how much we have to pay out in premium. Now, we'll say because we did so well last year and we were able to reduce our complaints and claims filed, we were able to get a bit of a reduction in our premium when we had to renew this year. So you all were able to save the market center some money. So thank you all for that. So we'll see what happens this year because I've had to file a lot of claims this policy year already. So just keep that in mind. We have to be able to pay this premium.
And Teresa, something else too, for realtors out there that may be doing property management, that's a whole separate rider that you have to get. And Keller Williams doesn't do property management. So if somebody is doing property management, they have to have their own firm and have their own E&O and have their own property management rider to go along with it. So just in case people out there that decided, hey, I'll manage this property for this client, just this one client because he asked me to, well, that is considered property management. And your regular E&O insurance is not going to cover you. And if you don't think owner won't sue you for doing property management or a tenant, well, you're wrong there. So,
Carl, thank you so much for adding that. Thank you. We don't do property management here at KW. We have people and agents like Carl who does and has his own firm within KW and has his own E&O. So thank you, Carl. I have since pulled up the policy and it says professional liability limit of liability and retention. Each claim limit of liability is $2 million. Aggregate limit of liability each policy period is $2 million. And retention for each claim is $10,000. And it explains, it's a whole long policy that explains all of this. I know some of you become partners or brokers for different vendors, like all of these third-party vendors out here, and they may ask for a copy or certificate of insurance that you may need. We do have that as well. It's not the entire policy. It's just a certificate of liability or insurance or whatever it's called that we can provide to you to prove that your market center does have insurance. But yeah, claim limit of liability, 2 million, aggregate limit, each policy period is 2 million, and retention for each claim is 10,000.
10,000.
And
Yeah.
then there are some other things that I won't get into here. Yep.
Well, we are right
Thank you.
at 2:00. And so, we respect your time, just like we ask you to respect ours. So we're going to have to say goodbye for now, but we look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. And we are so glad you asked. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Great
Yeah.
discussion. See you in 2 weeks.
See you soon.